Has President Trump just started a global trade war that will make everyone poorer?
This zero-sum game thing is really quite amusing. We want to have great trade relations with every country. But if you have punitive tariffs or tariff-like measures against our goods, you will pay a penalty.
In today's video, we're diving into yet another classic meltdown, this time starring none other than Sebastian Gorka, Donald Trump's ever-defensive sidekick. And what sets him off? A simple, direct question about Trump's tariffs and the potential fallout of a global trade war. That's it. Now, Gorka doesn't just deflect, he spirals. And the moment he's asked whether Trump is plunging us into a trade war that could make everyone poor, he throws around phrases like punitive tariffs and threatens retaliation as if he's auditioning for a Bond villain role. You can literally see the gears grinding in his head as he tries to rebrand aggressive economic policies as tough leadership. But here's the real kicker when the heat turns up and the interviewer refuses to let the nonsense slide. Gorka doesn't defend the policy with facts. Nope, he threatens to walk off. That's the level of confidence they have in their own economic strategy. So buckle up. Let's watch this clip play out in full, then we'll break it down together, because the unraveling here, it says a lot more about the strategy behind Trump's tariffs than any press release ever could.
Go live to Washington, D.C. then and talk live to Sebastian Gorka, Deputy Assistant to President Trump and Senior Director for Counter-Terrorism. Thank you very much for talking to us. I hope you can hear me okay, Mr. Gorka.
Yes, I can. Thank you. Loud and clear.
Can you confirm, just so we're absolutely clear here in the UK, the tariffs being imposed on the UK will be 10% on everything the UK sends to the US?
I'm not going to gainsay anything I've just heard on your programming, so it sounds correct to me. We have a special relationship, and we still have a special relationship.
Well, it's not that special, is it? If you've imposed 10% tariffs on everything.
What? Can I finish my sentences, or are you going to do the usual BBC thing?
Go right ahead.
So you're after Brexit, you've reaffirmed your independence, and I think that is being proven today by the special rate that has been afforded to the UK.
So we should be grateful here in the UK. Businesses here should be grateful.
Would you like to have the EU tariff level instead?
Well, some people here don't really understand why there's any 10% tariff at all, considering the trading relationship between the US and the UK is balanced.
It's not about balance, it's about what is being done to US goods coming into the UK, because President Trump believes in free trade, but he also believes in fair trade. And there's nothing to say that the current rate, the exempted rate, the special rate you have been afforded could not improve. It is the beginning. And I think I find it strange that you've been afforded such an exceptional status and you're complaining? I'm not sure I understand that.
I don't speak on behalf of the whole UK, let alone for the UK government. Has President... Oh, sorry, just let me check then. So what does the UK need to offer the US in order to either bring that 10% down or eliminate it altogether?
It's not complicated. It's very, very simple. The goods of each trading partner should be handled and should be taxed, should be tariffed at commensurate rates. There should be parity. So if you don't discriminate against US goods, then the other partner, in this case the UK, will not have their products discriminated against. It's very, very simple. A kindergartner should be able to get that.
So we need to get rid of VAT on the US goods that we sell here?
There should not be any kind of pejorative handling, negative handling of US goods if they do not wish to be reflected in the way that UK goods are handled. It's like the most simple equation. Do unto others as you would wish to have done unto yourself. I think I read that somewhere in a very important book.
Has President Trump just started a global trade war that will make everyone poorer?
What you've just seen isn't just a tense interview, it's a perfect case study in how Trump's America tried to rewrite the rules of international trade with swagger and spin instead of strategy and substance. Sebastian Gorka, former deputy assistant to Donald Trump, enters this BBC interview with the kind of arrogance we've come to expect from the MAGA elite. He's smug, defensive, and disturbingly unbothered by the actual economic consequences of the policy he's defending. Instead of addressing the valid concern that the US is imposing a 10% blanket tariff on UK goods, he spins it as a gift, a special rate. Like the UK should be flattered that it's only getting punched in the gut instead of the face. Let's pause there. Imagine that. A long-standing ally like the United Kingdom, with whom the US shares decades of trade, military, and diplomatic ties, is being told it should be grateful for a tariff hike. And when the journalist rightly questions the logic, because, again, the trade relationship between the two countries is largely balanced, Gorka lashes out. He accuses the BBC of doing the usual thing, cuts the interviewer off, and plays the victim card. This is not diplomacy, this is performative nationalism. It's the same Trump playbook: bully first, rationalize later, if at all. When the interviewer presses further, asking what the UK could possibly offer to avoid these tariffs, Gorka lays out a kindergarten version of trade policy, boiling it down to, if you don't discriminate against us, we won't discriminate against you. That sounds fair on paper, but let's not be naive. Tariffs are not neutral tools, they are economic weapons. And under Trump, they weren't wielded to promote fairness, they were used to provoke, punish, and distract. Here's what's missing in Gorka's entire argument: facts. There's no data, no reference to how this tariff affects consumers on both sides, no mention of how these decisions fuel inflation, strain small businesses, and disrupt global supply chains. Why? Because it was never about the policy. It was always about the optics. Trump wanted to look tough. His team wanted to appear in control. And the way to do that, apparently, was to launch a trade war disguised as a deal. And this isn't just about the UK. What Gorka says here echoes a larger pattern that defined Trump's approach to global affairs. Alienate allies, undermine long-term partnerships, and frame every international relationship as a zero-sum game where America must win, even if everyone else loses, and sometimes even if America loses too. And let's talk about that moment when Gorka says, "I think I read that somewhere in a very important book," referring to the Golden Rule. Do unto others. The irony is laughable, because this administration violated that principle at every turn. Whether it was separating migrant children from their parents at the border, pulling out of climate agreements, or imposing erratic trade tariffs on allies, the idea of mutual respect and reciprocity was tossed out the window. This entire segment is revealing. Gorka's frustration, his passive-aggressive tone, and his defensiveness aren't signs of strength, they're signs of a narrative crumbling under scrutiny. When confronted with facts and fair questions, Trump's team didn't rise to the occasion. They deflected, they insulted, and they collapsed into chaos. So the bigger question here isn't just whether Trump started a global trade war. The answer to that is increasingly obvious. The real question is this: how much damage was done to America's credibility, alliances, and economic stability in the name of looking strong? Because here's the truth. Tariffs like these may sound bold in a campaign rally, but they're paid for by everyday people. The farmer whose exports suddenly get taxed. The small business that can't afford rising import costs. The family watching grocery bills climb because supply chains are being strangled by ego-driven policy. What we're watching is not leadership. It's a warning of what happens when diplomacy is replaced by performance and policy is reduced to a series of stunts. Gorka might think he won the exchange, but in reality, all he did was remind us that for 4 years, America's international playbook was dictated by pride, not principle. Let's get back to the video.
This zero-sum game thing is really quite amusing. We want to have great trade relations with every country. But if you have punitive tariffs or tariff-like measures against our goods, you will pay a penalty. It's not about trade wars. It's about equitable relations for everyone's exports. I don't understand how this is difficult to understand. Is this complicated for you?
So a research centre at Yale, the Budget Lab, found that tariffs at 20% would cost, for example, US households up to $4,200 every year. Winner of the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, Joseph Stiglitz, said virtually all economists think that the impact of the tariffs will be very bad for America and the world. They will almost surely be inflationary. Are they wrong?
Are these the same experts that told us masks would save you from COVID and it didn't come from a lab?
Okay, you don't like them. Let me give you some more then.
Again, you're doing it again. Stop, okay?
No, you don't like them.
You let me respond or you don't invite me on your show. It's that simple. Can I respond?
Go ahead.
Is this the same Yale that was sued because it is racist, because it didn't allow Asians who had the highest scores possible to actually become students there? Are we talking about that Yale perchance? I don't think I give a fig for the so-called experts at racist institutions like Yale.
let me give you some other people then. You may want to disparage.
You're not going to convince me. You can quote whoever you wish, but 77 million Americans have spoken, and that's why the president has declared Liberation Day today.
Republican Congressman for Montana, Ryan Zinke, says 86% of Montana's imports come from Canada, and that innocents and families that are just trying to get by will get hurt because of these tariffs. Republican Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina says anyone who says there may be a little bit of pain before we get things right needs to talk to my farmers who are one crop away from bankruptcy.
Look, none of these people believe, and I know Ryan's a friend of mine, he's a great patriot, he's a former SEAL.
He's not a fan of tariffs.
Oh my gosh, you're doing it again. It's the third time. I will curtail this interview if you interrupt me again. Are we clear?
Go right ahead.
Don't do it again. So, this is a setting of the bar. It is the zero reset. This isn't a permanent state of affairs. This is a measure by which those who are using punitive tariffs against our goods are sent a shot across the bow economically and say, hey, stop it, otherwise your goods will be treated the same way. This isn't carved in stone. This isn't forever. This is the beginning of the realization for those who have practiced unfair trade relations to reset things. Ryan, I'm sorry, you're a friend of mine, but you're wrong, because this isn't a permanent measure, because we expect normal nations and wise governments to say, okay, we're not going to treat US goods in a punitive fashion, therefore we will have fair trade between our nations. And let's remind the world, my boss was president before for 4 years, and it saw an incredible growth in the US economy to the biggest economy the world had ever seen, with trading partners who actually enjoyed the benefits of that incredible economic growth.
Although, despite tariffs last time, manufacturing jobs as a percentage of total US employment was no higher when President Trump left office than when he took over in 2016.
Yeah, the growth of the economy, however, was absolutely astronomical and resulted in the largest economy the world had ever seen. And now that we've secured the border, and now that we're shipping illegals out of the country, it's going to mean jobs for Americans.
We'll see. Thank you very much.
Once again, we're watching just how easily Sebastian Gorka crumbles under basic pressure. But beyond the theatrics, I'm genuinely trying to understand what exactly is it that the Trump administration claims to see here that the rest of the world is somehow blind to? Because, let's be honest, right now it's not adding up, not even a little. The European Union has slammed these tariffs as a massive hit to the global economy, warning they'll bring devastating consequences, especially for the most vulnerable countries. China's not pulling any punches. Either they've outright condemned the move as a one-sided provocation and are promising tough countermeasures. Japan? They're calling the 24% tariffs extremely regrettable, and even suggest they violate international trade agreements. South Korea flat out says it's ridiculous and a sign of a full-blown trade war. And Australia's Prime Minister? He called them unjustified and warned that while the whole world will suffer, it's Americans who will feel the pain most. So again, what are Trump and his team seeing that nobody else is? Because even US-based financial analysts are starting to say out loud, this isn't going to work. It's already unraveling, and fast. We're watching this administration push forward with reckless abandon, seemingly determined to tank the US economy and drag the rest of the world down with it. That's not an exaggeration. Stock markets across Asia, Europe, and right here in the US have already taken hits, reacting directly to the chaos caused by these tariffs. And in the middle of this storm, you've got Sebastian Gorka, red-faced, flustered, and threatening to walk off an interview simply because a journalist dared to ask him basic, legitimate questions. That's the level of accountability we're dealing with. These folks hate being challenged. They don't want to answer. And when they're pressed, they fold, just like we're seeing here. Gorka's behavior isn't strong, it's weak, it's evasive, and frankly, it's embarrassing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you see what the Trump team claims to see? Because I don't. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next breakdown. And while you're at it, give this video a thumbs up. It really helps push it through the YouTube algorithm. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next one.